Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon with a warm round of applause. Once again, please welcome His Excellency Ban Ki-moon. Well, the VIPs are entering first, and His Excellency Ban Ki-moon will be joining soon. So please wait a few minutes. It actually increases our expectation, right? And right after the end of the keynote speech session, His Excellency Ban Ki-moon will have an informal gathering with the VIPs sitting at the front rows. So ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until all the VIPs sitting at the front rows leave the hall to join the informal gathering. Thank you for your cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please welcome His Excellency Ban Ki-moon with a warm round of applause.
Honorable Lee Sang-bok, Acting Governor of Jeju Province, Professor Kim Se-won, Chairman of the International Peace Foundation, Ambassador Han Tae-kyu, President of Jeju Peace Institute, distinguished former Prime Ministers of Australia and Korea, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your warm welcome. I'm delighted to visit this beautiful island of Jeju and to be among so many good friends of the United Nations. It is a special pleasure to join you, senior government officials, business leaders, eminent scholars in the Jeju Peace Forum. A decade ago, as Vice Foreign Minister, I had the modest role in launching this distinguished program. Later, as Foreign Minister, I had the honor of helping create a Jeju Peace Institute. Over the years, this Jeju Peace Forum has made itself a force for understanding and cooperation in Asia and around the world. And I congratulate and I commend your progress. Through your leadership, you are helping fulfill the vision of truly a global Korea, a bridge to the region and beyond. And I am pleased to see continuing to reach out and expand your partnerships, including so many of us in the United Nations. Your foundation is dialogue, the key to peace and progress in our modern world. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, we meet at a moment of a profound challenge and change. We confront global crisis, the likes of which we have not seen in generations, all of them hitting at once, like a food crisis, fuel crisis, flu pandemic, and financial crisis. These compound others, even greater challenge. I speak of climate change. As the Secretary General of the United Nations, I often hear the lament if only we have more money. And yet, the biggest challenge we face is not a deficit of resources. We have much of them. The biggest deficit is will, the political will. We have resources, we have technology, and we have even financing. But the largest lack is a political will of the leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, our era demands this above this all else. It demands a due spirit of committed multilateralism, a multilateralism suited to the challenges of 21st century. A new multilateralism focused on results. A new multilateralism that brings a real change in people's lives. Success will depend on working together, recognizing our interdependence and shared interest. It will depend on using the institutions we have built to encourage collective action, the United Nations above all. There is no doubt that Asia is vital in shaping this new world. The rise and dynamism of Asia is one of the defining stories of our time. It has reshaped global politics and transformed our economic landscape. It has lifted billions of people from the poverty. Amid the global recession, it is an engine of growth and our best hope, pulling the world out of an economic ditch. But for Asia to fully realize its tremendous economic and political potential, for Asia to take its rightful place in the global stage, it must build strength from within. There is a strength in burden sharing. There is an opportunity in building common markets and infrastructure. There is uncommon influence in common cause. Of course, we all know the difficulties. They include ideological differences and delicate historical legacies, unresolved territorial and political disputes, diversity of political orientations, and disparities in economic development. And yet, we all recognize that we are part of a very special Asian family, a community drawing strength from a common history, values, and traditions. This is a foundation to build on. We must leverage this tremendous strength for the global good. This is not just a matter of providing resources. It is about Asia's vital and growing energy, its dynamism, its impressive ability to generate ideas and innovation. It is about Asia's growing ability to shape the world, to change it, and in doing so, to benefit all. Around the world, we see experiments in regional integration. Europe has proved that integration is an engine of prosperity and common development and social advancement. Africans have created the African Union to build collective strength and manage problems of common concerns. Latin America and North America, they have created free trade regions. Here in this neighborhood, however, our perspective should expand in step with our economic and social advancement. I would offer three specific pillars on which to build a new multilateralism in East Asia so that the nations of the region come together as partners rather than competitors. The security pillar. A few days ago, we marked the anniversary in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Today, the world is at another turning point. The assumption that nuclear weapons are indispensable for security is crumbling. Disarmament is back on the global agenda, and not a moment too soon. What an opportunity lies before us. The President of the United States and the Russian Federation have joined in seeking to reduce their nuclear arsenals. The Conference on Disarmament in Geneva has made a breakthrough. For the first time in a decade, they have agreed to a program of work. This is a real challenge for us to seriously discuss on nuclear disarmament. Now is our moment, our opportunity to build on this momentum. And we have a campaign. United Nations, as a Secretary General, has recently launched a campaign, a WMD campaign. This is not about weapons of mass destruction. This WMD stands for We Must Disarm. Asia must be a full partner in this. Few regions have a greater stake in halting nuclear proliferation. The new multilateralism, Asia's moment, obliges you to engage fully in this great common cause. Asia should do more. I strongly welcome the current trend toward more forward-looking relations and stronger cooperation on a matter of regional peace and security. I welcome the trend toward a greater democracy. In Southeast Asia, ASEAN is a welcome presence. The ASEAN Regional Forum provides a broad framework for an annual exchange of views and security. I urge you to continue along this path with an emphasis on mutual trust, confidence building, and preventive diplomacy. This is a bottom-up diplomacy, beginning with the issue on which we have consensus. By contrast, the six-party talks on the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula are designed to tackle the most difficult, most controversial, and sensitive issues of truly global implications, the nuclear issue of the DPRK. The process has not been an easy one, nor will it grow easier. As I have repeatedly stated as Secretary General, I'm deeply concerned about the current status and situation on the Korean Peninsula. The stakes are high, not just for the Korean Peninsula, but for entire Asia and even beyond this region. Clearly, we must work together and work creatively to put these six-party talks back on track. If successful, this six-party process could pave the way toward a broader multilateral security framework in Northeast Asia. As Secretary General of the United Nations, I stand ready to help this process move on. The second, the economic pillar. We here today all agree Asia has emerged as a principal player in the global economy. Its role at the recent G20 summit meeting and G8 testifies to this fundamental fact. At the April G20 leaders meeting in London, we asked for a $1 trillion for the most vulnerable countries, and we have delivered it. And in the forthcoming G20 meeting in Pittsburgh in September, I sincerely hope that the leaders of G20 will deliver their commitment to mobilize this $1 trillion, which they have committed in London. We are at the midpoint of Millennium Development Goals. As you all know, we need to drive hard, starting now, to hit the target of this MDG by 2015. That means a renewed commitment to multilateralism a concrete, committed multilateralism that puts a premium on action, on results rather than rhetoric. Real results for real people. That is why at the G20 summit meeting in September, I will again call on world leaders to deliver on their promises. This too demands Asia's commitment and Asia's strong engagement. This too requires Asia to take on due responsibilities in line with its newfound place in the world. I welcome other steps that Asia is now taking. Among them is the idea of creating an Asian Monetary Fund. An AMF could complement the IMF in helping countries respond to financial and economic shocks. It could promote investment in regional transport infrastructure and social protection. I know that for this moment, your energies are focused on Chiang Mai initiative. I welcome these discussions on how to put the region's ample foreign reserves to the best possible use. I also welcome the fact that the countries of the region are trading more and more with one another. Clearly, Asian countries will benefit as a greater interaction increasingly drives growth. On due multilateralism, on Asian multilateralism, recognizes this reinforcing power. It is a political and economic multiplier effect. It is the reality of geopolitical arithmetic. With cooperation, integration, and unity, 1 + 1 equals more than 2. Third, the environmental pillar. We know that climate change respects no borders. We must deal with greater emphasis and urgency and work acting together. 4 months from now, in December in Copenhagen, world leaders will gather together to discuss and to agree on a global deal on climate change. We must seal the deal on climate change, which is comprehensive, equitable, and binding climate change for the future of our whole humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, the reality is quite simple. The science is also very simple, and science has made it quite clear. It is, again, the reality of the new multilateralism. Without Asian leadership, without Asian partnership, without Asian political will, there will be no deal in Copenhagen. This, if not successful, this will be a tragedy for all humanity. Copenhagen provides an opportunity to reach a fair, effective, and scientifically ambitious agreement, an agreement that can benefit all nations and advance our common goal of greener and cleaner future. That is why I'll be holding a summit meeting on September 22nd in the United Nations. I expect more than 100 leaders from the world will participate in this. This will be by far the largest, the first, and it may be the last occasion where world leaders can really generate their political will, pooling all their wisdoms and all the resources. But what I need at this time is their political will. They should be able to overcome their national geographical borders. This, as much as anything, underscores the importance of this moment. It underscores the importance of a new multilateralism, a multilateralism capable of delivering what is demanded of us. This climate change has been and will continue to be the top most important priority, not for me as a Secretary General, not for the United Nations, for all the leaders, for all the people of the world. for all the succeeding generations. The political leaders at this time, they have political and moral imperative, moral responsibility. They should feel the historical responsibility to deliver this planet Earth to our succeeding generation in a more hospitable and environmentally sustainable way. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, excellencies, while we are talking about the challenge of climate change, let me note a related bit of news. As you well know, the Asia-Pacific region is among the regions most vulnerable to natural disasters. In recent days, Typhoon Morakot has left as many as 9 million people homeless in China and in Taiwan. We have seen earthquakes and tropical storms in Japan and in the Indian Ocean. That is why earlier this week, the United Nations has opened a new United Nations office dedicated to disaster risk reduction, particularly those related to climate change. I have seen for myself how big difference it can bring when we are ready, when we are prepared to take necessary measures to reduce this disaster risk. For Asia, this too is a new multilateral imperative. China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea, in particular, have the skills, technologies, and finance to prepare necessary measures to reduce the disaster risk. Indeed, I expect great things of my fellow Koreans. This country has come into its own in a remarkable way. It is a robust democracy. It has gone from being a recipient of foreign aid to donor and provider of official development assistance. In many ways, it is a model for others still in transition to democracy and advanced economy. When I was running for this job as a candidate, one of my biggest arguments was that as a Korean, I could be able to play a role, a bridging role, between developing and developed countries, and between those countries, democratic countries, to those countries in transition to democracy. That is what I'm now doing. That is what I ask my fellow Koreans to do more in terms of delivering your aid to developing countries. All of us should be proud of that achievement and many others Korea has achieved. But as we have said, with that transformation comes even greater responsibility. This is what I'm asking my fellow Koreans. With the status and enhanced role in international community, you should come with a greater moral, political responsibility. In development, that should mean a more generous official development assistance. In diplomacy, that should mean greater engagement across the regional and international agenda. In this regard, I commend highly President Lee Myung-bak for his new Asia policy and his vision of a global Korea. As Secretary General of the United Nations, I too would like to see my country become a bridge between East and West, a bridge between North and South. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, let me speak bluntly. This is Asia's moment. This is our new multilateral moment. As a Secretary General, I also see the United Nations as ever more engaging and as ever more important to your future. When we can help Asia realize its full potential in all three pillars, security, economics, and environment, and more importantly, human rights, we can help Asia to take its place on the global stage. As an honest broker, the United Nations can facilitate delicate diplomatic negotiations, the first step toward resolving tensions, Asian and modern. As a great global convener, the United Nations can help civic movements such as yourselves, the Jeju Peace Institute, Jeju Peace Forum, to emerge as a full global partner. We can help you become a force to pull the region together. Asia's future lies in integration, in closer union. From the grassroots up, from the top down, we can work together to educate and shape the leaders of tomorrow, even as we help the leaders of today speak with a genuinely global voice. Look to the United Nations as your partner in gaining strength and influence in the world. And in so doing, I ask you to share the United Nations role and its duty to make the world a better place with even greater justice, peace, and prosperity for all. This is truly an Asian opportunity. It is also an obligation for Asia, an obligation and responsibility to engage yourself for the better world for all human beings. Let us work together, and I stand ready to work together with you. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Ban Ki-moon, for your inspiring and encouraging remarks. We are really honored and privileged to have you with us today. And VIPs sitting at the front rows who are joining at the informal gathering, you may also leave the hall now. And ladies and gentlemen, please be seated until all the VIPs leave the hall. 반기문 사무총장님과의 간담회 참석을 위해서 앞줄에 참석하신 VIP분께서는요, 지금 퇴장하여 주시고 예외 귀빈 여러분께서는 잠시만 기다려 주시기 바랍니다. VIP분들이 모두 퇴장하신 이후에 퇴장해 주시기 바랍니다. Well, this concludes the special keynote session of the 5th Jeju Peace Forum. We'll now take coffee break until 10 o'clock, and the 4th plenary session will begin at 10. Please come back and take your seats before 10. 지금 홀 밖에 커피와 다과가 준비되어 있으니 즐거운 담화 시간 갖기 바랍니다. 10시부터 제4차 전체 회의가 시작될 예정입니다. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the coffee break until 10 o'clock. Thank you.
We're here to talk about the financial crisis and its ramifications for Asia. I'm Bill Overholt from Harvard. We have an extraordinary panel here where we'll have two presentations on the broad macro structure of the crisis and what we should do about it. We'll have two presentations by top Korean business and financial leaders, and then I'm going to play a dual role and chair the panel and also be the panelist on China, and then we'll have a presentation on Russia by one of Russia's leading businessmen. As we discuss the financial crisis, it's well to keep in mind that this is not just a financial crisis, but it bears on the Jeju Forum theme of peace as well as prosperity, because as they cope with the economic and financial crisis, countries are also changing their international roles. The United States is going to have to fix its financial management and its economic ideology, or it's going to find its role as a geopolitical and currency and ideological hegemon in the world fundamentally diminished. Japan is going to have to return to a path of fundamental economic reform, or its role is going to be even more radically diminished than it already has been. China is rapidly gaining international influence. People are starting to talk about the G2, referring to China and the United States. But that's sustainable only if China takes its economic management to a new level at great social and political cost. Korea will either find itself squeezed between China and Japan, or it will find a way to leverage its relationship with China and catapult itself into doing many of the things that Japan does now. And Russia is at a turning point where it needs to get back on a path of globalization and marketization, or it could find itself as a third world provider of natural resources, a Canada that happens to have a big military. So as we hear these financial discussions, we should keep in mind the enormous consequences of the decisions that are made. Our first presenter will be Spencer Kim. I'm going to give very brief introductions because you have the detailed bios, and I don't want to take a lot of time introducing each of us. Spencer Kim has been a very successful CEO of an aeronautical enterprise, and he has leveraged that into being the Track 2 organizer in dealing with the South Korean, North Korean, American relationship. When you read in the newspaper about remarkable things like former Secretary of Defense Bill Perry and former Ambassador Don Gregg going from the inauguration of South Korea's new president across